Hey everybody, welcome to DadsDen of Pop Culture and Mighty Thor Monday. And Thor number 341 from March of 1984. We got a great cover here from Simonson. Big old dragon. We're going to learn more about him inside. And he's somebody that Thor has faced in the past. In the comics, at least. I don't know if Thor had anything to do with the mythological character he is based on. Well, we begin our story art and story by Walter Simonson, lettering John Workman Jr., colors George Roussos, editing Mark Grunwald, editor-in-chief Jim Shooter. We begin in New York City. Now, the Thor comic book for some time had been set in Chicago. At least that's where Dr. Donald Blake lived. He has come back to New York at this point. So we have a change in venue. You notice the Twin Towers back there. And I think that you're going to find that through a fair amount of this run, there's kind of an underlying theme of transitions. So we have a transition. Well, we have Bill becoming Beta Ray Bill. And we have obviously what's been going on with that sword being forged, Doom. We have, the end of Donald Blake and Thor finding a new chapter in his life, etc. We're getting a lot of changes. We're getting a lot of transitions over the course of this run. So he's returned to New York. And of course, first thing on his mind is, where am I going to live? What am I going to do? Because Donald Blake is gone. He can't turn into Donald Blake anymore with his hammer. That's over. So he doesn't have a place to stay. Well, he goes obviously to Avengers Mansion. And then what happens here? What happens here? Well, as it says, to find himself on the most surprising adventure of his career. So surprising, in fact, that we can't even tell you about it until next month. Watch this space. Okay, what is that all about? Well, if you know your Marvel comics, you're going to know what it's all about. In next issue, next video, you will in fact see what it's all about. Well, not in depth, but the missing panels are presented there. So while he's doing what he's doing there, we're going to have a little bit of a time lapse before he gets back from whatever this is. So meanwhile, Lorelei is in New York looking for Thor. A couple guys harass her in the subway. She uses her power to get them to fight. And so she's trying to hone in on where Thor might be. And she decides to go check with your friendly neighborhood dragon. Ah, here is the passage Loki spoke of. And here the abandoned station where the one I seek is concealed, little dreaming of the destiny that awaits him. And basically, she finds Fafnir the dragon. Now, we saw Fafnir being released in earlier issues of this run. And she figures, well, I'll just use my ability to control him, manipulate him. What she doesn't realize is dragons are more seductive than goddesses any day of the week. And so he looks deeply into her eyes as she tells him to. And I love how we got that panel getting smaller, smaller, smaller as she spirals into sort of unconsciousness and the dragon's control. All right, so a couple weeks later, as they say, Thor is back from doing whatever he was doing, some sort of secret war, you might say. And he goes and visits Nick Fury because he figures S.H.I.E.L.D. might be able to set him up with a new civilian identity. And this is kind of funny. They're having a little bit of fun with this one. So Nick sets him up with this guy who's sort of in charge of costume wardrobe for S.H.I.E.L.D. to see if there's anything he's got. He shows back up. That's how he's dressed. And he's like, nah, you look great. I got an apartment for you, but you have to settle for Brooklyn. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. can't find nothing in Manhattan. But of course, he's saying the thing is, though, I mean, you're in civilian clothes, but you still kind of look like the mighty Thor. So he goes, hold on a second. I got an idea. Hold the phone. I just got the greatest Edison's pizza. Where'd I dump those things? I got them. Here, put these cheaters on. They always worked for that other guy. That other guy? What other guy? What other guy wears glasses to conceal his identity? Well, in fact, it's this other guy right here. As Thor leaves this room, he bumps into this, rather large guy who's also kind of nerdy and clumsy, who's referred to by the woman with him as Clark. Yeah, they're members of the press who were there for some kind of an interview. So we get a little Superman sighting. I like how there are times where they almost hint that like the DC universe is going on at the same time in the Marvel universe, or at least all those people are there. Look, if this was just Clark Kent from the Marvel universe, well, there wouldn't be a Clark Kent. He would have to actually be the son of the Kents, right? He wouldn't be an alien who came to Earth. He wouldn't be wearing glasses as a disguise unless he needed to be wearing them for a disguise. So you wait a minute, is Superman no, of course Superman's not, but they like to play with that because, with these creators who are doing this stuff, they're not as tied into, we've got to have verisimilitude. It's got to be this realistic universe for Marvel. It's stories, it's adventure, it's fun. They play with things. Anyhow. Okay, so that's him getting his new secret identity. He's gonna introduce himself to somebody in just a moment. Back in the Golden Realm of Asgard, we see Bifrost there. We have Odin doing some magic, and he basically prepares his ravens, Hugin and Munin, with runes on their talons. He enlarges them so they can fly across space to the burning galaxy and figure out what is behind the demons and what is behind all this other stuff that is going on. That's what they're going to do. So Thor, meanwhile, goes to get a job at a construction site. The guy who owns the place or who's in charge, foreman, is a cousin of Nick Fury's, maybe owes him a favor, introduces himself as Sigurd Jarlsson. So that's going to be his new secret identity. While he's there, there's a scream. He rushes outside and discovers a woman tied up to this crane. Okay. He rushes up there as quickly as he can, swings on a cable, saves her. Very, very heroic, very Errol Flynn sort of stuff there. And that's when Fafnir erupts out of the water nearby. At last I have found thee, and I will be thy death. Nay, it cannot be. What vision of evil is this rising out of the water? Before me stands the likeness of one I defeated ages ago, larger and seemingly more deadly than ever. And that's interesting too. Why should he be larger? Okay. Well, Fafnir collapses everything with his tail. Now your computer fits original arcade hits. Very groovy. We're going to find out what happens over here. But on this page first, we're getting a little bit more about this whole doom thing. Elsewhere beyond the fields, we know, a host, past counting, listens to a voice as old as time speak, from the starless void, from the realm of endless night. By the power of the unfinished sword before me, I summon the dark elf. Heed my call, seek out the second son of Odin. And in the lightness, and then we get the doom. And in the lightless depths of space, a voice answers, I will. Okay, so who's this guy? If you're an old-time Marvelite, maybe you figure it out. It's still pretty mysterious at this point. But we're bringing in a dark elf, and that dark elf is going to do some interesting things in a few issues here, and he's going to be a big part of this saga. Back at the construction site, Thor manages to get this woman, who we can kind of now tell is Lorelei, gets her to, relative safety. Things collapse in, but he finds a safe space for her. He's holding his hammer. He uses it to become Thor, of course, and Fafnir is thinking he must have died, but let me make sure, because he sees that energy, and I'll burn him to a cinder, and then boom, scion of evil. My father fears no god or dragon, whatever his power. Ugh. So Thor erupts. We get a mighty battle between the two of them. You can see him smashing. And they talk a little bit about Fafnir's history. He was a greedy king who becomes a dragon. I want to say the story of that was in one of the tales of Asgard way back in time. I'm not positive. They don't actually give you the issue. As they say, it was so long ago, almost makes me wonder if they forgot and didn't have time to actually look it up, they being the editor. But at any rate, we get the battle. We get some fire breathing. And ultimately, what happens is we take a pause and we go look at Volstagg, because this is another key part of the story that's going on here. Volstagg, back in Asgard, goes looking for Balder and finds that Balder has left. Balder is going into the wilderness to be alone. He needs to think. He needs to figure things out. Again, we're talking transitions. Balder the brave, the warrior god, very good, very high in spirits. Now he has come back from the dead. His hair is white. And again, he's trying to find himself. And who should be spying on him but Karnilla, Queen of the Norns? And that's an old storyline in Thor, and actually in mythology. No, maybe not mythology. I might be wrong on that. I mean, there are the Norns and stuff. I think that's maybe a Marvel creation, but Karnilla has long sought, the love of Balder. Okay, back to our big fight. And notice how he spaces things in there a lot. So back to the big fight. The fire sets things ablaze. Thor is worried about the woman that he saved. He summons the rain and lightning, and that frightens Fafnir enough that he burrows under to get away. When Thor starts to go in after him, he discovers that he has burrowed into the river, and the river is now flooding the subways. So Thor, using his hammer, causes a cave-in to block the water. As he says, in his eagerness to flee, Fafnir failed to realize that his armor is virtually proof against my hammer. For when I struck him with it, with all my strength, he was barely lifted from the ground. What will I do when he returns, as he must? What power on earth will be able to stop him? Oh boy. So Thor's got some trouble. Now we go back to Asgard and Loki. And Loki has been watching all of this and having a good time, watching the entertainment of Lorelei, especially Lorelei being, controlled by the dragon, which she didn't think was going to happen. Well, back as Sigurd Jarlsson, the construction guys come back. Of course, they're going to give him a job after seeing him save that woman. So he has the woman. He went back. She was not burned or anything like that. Ooh, who are you? Yeah, just relax, miss. You have had enough excitement for one day. I think you're right, but I feel much safer now. Oh, isn't that cute? Why, she's asleep. Probably the shock. I'll take her over to the foreman's shack. How beautiful she is. Hold, there it is again. What does he mean, there it is again? Well, that's been happening through this issue a couple times. Thor keeps hearing like his name being whispered on the wind. And it reminds him of ages ago when he had worshipers on earth. Whenever they would call his name, he could hear it. Sometimes he would answer and sometimes he wouldn't. True with all the gods. That's what he's hearing. But who, he says, who could still be a true believer, of Thor as a god? Where could this be coming from? That's going to be investigated as we go. Okay. So what do we got here in Thor 341? We have a great big fight, that's for sure. With Fafnir the dragon. Fafnir awakened by the pounding of that sword, by the forging of that sword, by an entity as yet unknown. Odin is trying to track it down. We have Balder going through what he's going through. Loki watching on, causing a little bit of trouble as he goes, as he usually does. And we now have Thor, new identity, living in New York City again. But we have Thor looking for or wondering where this voice is coming from that seems to be calling his name. A lot of stuff going on. Like I said, Simonson did a lot of juggling in this, and he did it very well. A lot of different stories ongoing, but they don't intrude too deeply on one another to the point that it's confusing, and he doesn't give you so much that you have to remember that you start getting lost. Not too many twists and turns. But he's building up to something. That is for sure. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thor 341, March of 1984. I would love to hear from you. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, maybe subscribe, maybe share with a friend. But until next time, God bless everybody. Please be kind to one another. Have a little bit of fun out there. Read some Thor, and I will hopefully see you again soon in Dad's Den of Pop Culture. Bye-bye.